Welcome back, or welcome to this channel. If you've seen this video, you know what's going on. If you don't, I'm going to Japan for 3 months, and I'm going through GoGoNihon, as the title suggests. I've had the script for a very long time, and a lot of things have been going on. It takes a long time to record. Honestly, if you just want a quick dump of info, I will leave a link to the Google Doc in the description, just because I don't know how long this video is going to be, and like my last video, it's most likely going to go through, this video is going to go through a lot of lighting changes. So I hope this video doesn't end up long, but I'm going to give you a long run through of how I got to wanting to study abroad, how I saved the money and the process for that, how long it took, and then like actually going to the GoGoNihon stuff. So if you just want like the GoGoNihon things, I will leave timestamps and everything. I just thought I'll give you a good like run through of how I got to this point, if you just are curious about that, and just in general for something like kind of a logging video just for myself to like look back on in this time in my life. That being said, a couple disclaimers. I'm not gonna go too deep into the GoGoNihon stuff just because I don't want to expose too much of like their process in case of like private practices reasons. Nothing bad happened per se, just stuff I don't want to review too much in case of like competitive reasons or just private information, private company stuff. I try to look through like their terms and conditions kind of thing. I don't think I saw too much about it, but I'm just gonna try and gloss over like the process. And second, we just had the election in the USA, and if I give a lot of snide comments or pessimistic vibes, I guess, that's why. If I make a lot of jokes about like a green card or whatever, it's coming from that kind of place because of the very unfortunate results, in my opinion, and my worrying of safety and other people's safety. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping to make a lot of content on this traveling abroad thing because I've always wanted to do it before. I think I love giving information to all you guys. I know in my last video someone commented that they would love this video. I'm gonna link this video to them once they make it. I hope it comes out soon. I don't know. I'm trying to get it all out. It's just something's been going on, and I'll try my best to get this as fast as possible. But let's go ahead and get into it. First thing will be the how did I even get to this point of wanting to study abroad. Okay, so I actually learned about studying abroad in middle school because I had a friend who wanted to go to Europe, but I'm Asian. I've always been to like Asian culture, specifically Japanese culture, so I always knew I wanted to go to Japan for so long, since middle school, high school, and then as an adult. It's just not, it hasn't happened until now. I'm being 22. Middle school, I feel like that's so, my family's not well off. They're like definitely not like low class, they're more middle class, I think. They just want to act like they're poor kind of thing. But that's a lot to send the middle schooler abroad. High school, still a lot of money. My family was very, very worried for my safety, or very just like unreasonable worry of safety. They're like, oh, you shouldn't go because like you could die or something dangerous could happen. I'm like, that's funny because now in America, literally so much shit's gonna happen. So see, sorry, pessimistic comments. I'm sorry, but it's the honest truth here. As a young, queer, non-binary, born a woman person, it's not safe. I'm sorry, but yeah, high school, didn't have the money for it. I knew it was gonna be a lot based on the numbers from back then. My family was just not going for it, and as a minor, you can't like do it without your parents' permission and stuff. And now as an adult, I was hoping to go around 18. I was doing a lot of things. I would hope at least travel to go to Japan and just try it out. But then that's when COVID happened. I'm a 2020 graduate. And obviously couldn't do that. I didn't work until like the middle of 2020. Started working at a minimum wage job. And then I switched to a different job like beginning of 2021, and I've been at that job since. And it took a while to actually start saving up, I will say. But I'll get to that in a second. Other reasons to travel or like go abroad and why this got me into it. I just always wanted to travel. One, I've gone to New York a couple times. I'm like in the middle of the East Coast kind of location. So I've gone to New York a couple times. I've been to Florida. I've been to Europe, so like Paris, France, and Barcelona, Madrid, Spain. I love traveling. I've always wanted to travel. I've never gone to Asia yet, even though I am like a Southeastern Asian. My family never like put the money towards me actually going because of like, again, worrying about safety and stuff. So I understand because it came like during the time of the Vietnam War or like a little bit after that, so I understand the certain stuff with it. But I want to hopefully live abroad. Not just because of the election, and this, I wonder about this, for other minorities in America, especially if you're like of a different ethnicity, if you've ever identified as like American. I wonder if it's a controversial take, but I've always asked my minority friends, like, do I identify as American? They're like, hell no. And I've always had that as a kid, growing up. I'm like, I identify as Asian, and that's it. Like, I am self-distancing myself, because there's just such a stigma to it, and it's like, now it's just becoming worse and worse kind of thing. So, when I live abroad, hopefully, I want to try it out. Obviously, want to try living abroad, living in Japan or Asia for a little bit and see. Since I went to Europe, I feel like that would be more my vibe, based on like perception as an American, like what you see from here. I just want to try to live independently because I don't live independently now. I'm still with my grandparents, and they're very much like, you can do whatever you want. We don't need any money. Just live freely and do whatever. Go to school, do whatever you want, as long as I'm working and not doing anything bad in their house. So that's a good thing for me. And then career choices, I'm hoping that Japan will help me get a good idea of what I want to do in the future. So I'm hoping to go more towards the art route, like small business pottery kind of thing. I've done pottery, I love it. I think I could do it long term, or at least try to do it long term, business wise, or class teaching wise maybe too. But I also have thought about being a tour guide. So once I love my tour guides in New York, very fun, but I especially love my tour guide in Europe. It was the same trip for France and Spain. I loved her so much, and I want to try doing something similar to her, but with Asia, which I feel like could be controversial since I've never been to Asia and I shouldn't be a tour guide. I'm trying to see that from a different side perspective, from like someone in Japan and be like, why is an American taking all these kids around touring and showing them around? I kind of get that weird sense, but I don't know if this is me being in my head or whatever. I'm curious about people's opinion, because I feel like it makes sense for some people who are like, you were born in this area, you could be a tour guide because you know this area so much, you have so many memories with it, you're so engulfed in the history, you should be like more knowledgeable on it. I think my tour guide, she was born in the UK, but she has studied so much for Europe, so it could be a little bit different. But I feel like it's also easier to be like in that area, which I'm on the opposite hemisphere of that whole world. So it's very, I think it'd be very interesting to like see our perspectives on that and be like, no, you're not overthinking it, Viana, or like, yeah, that is a little bit different and not maybe conventional for other people. So curious to know, but I think one of those two routes would be really fun for me. I've thought about doing both. My friend recommended that, or maybe suggested that, where my main gig is the tour guide, and then I can do my pottery things aside, supporting hobby. So still trying to decide that. I feel like once I come back from Japan, I'm hoping to have a better idea and start going to school for whichever way I decide. And then why Japanese specifically? Because I'm not at my bookshelf just because of like different lightings and stuff, but if you've seen my usual setup, I'm a big anime nerd. Since like basically birth, I've watched Pokemon, Digimon, and stuff like that growing up. And I just want to be more knowledgeable in the culture and want to learn a language mostly for like the reading and the watching aspect of anime and manga, but also like the listening, because I listen to so much Japanese music. But to be honest, I don't know what they're saying. I never look up their lyrics, and I feel like it's sometimes really hard to find like English translations of them, or more indie bands especially. So I think that'd just be a nice like addition to my life. I'm hoping to be like 4-way bilingual. I don't know that word would be quadlingual or something like that, maybe? I don't know. English, Lao, French, and Japanese. English I already got down, obviously. Lao, I know it, it's my native language, I just can't speak it that well. French, because I actually have some French like descent in me, so I think that'd be nice. I also love taking French in high school, and Japanese, because I've already told you. So I think that'd be really fun to get that process started. Obviously I can start like figuring out my native language at home in French. I can figure out doing online classes and everything. So I'm hoping to maybe one day study abroad, or like actually stay in France for a little bit too. And then lastly, to clarify, I keep saying like studying abroad, but I'm actually going to a language school in Japan. So every time I have to explain this, it sounds kind of weird because a lot of people are like, so you're spending a lot of this money, but you're just going there just to learn a language. You're not actually going to a college, and it sounds like a waste of funds. You should put it more towards like an actual school or something. And I do agree because it's just a language school. Sorry, my nose is dripping. Where I'm literally just there to study Japanese. Now there are different options based on the GoGoNihon website. There's like vocational schools, there's like a more business focused school, there's technology focused, there's the art focus. I was hoping to go to the art focus, but that's super more expensive. So, and you also gotta be there long term, which is like 6 months plus. Definitely a lot of money, and I'm self-sponsoring myself basically. Self-sponsoring myself. I'm self-sponsoring right now. I'm hoping to do this without like the help of my family, just because I'm low contact with my parents and I don't want to rely on my grandparents. So a lot of this is just gonna be me, and whatever I bring to Japan is what I have to survive on. So that's why I want to make content about it, because I want to see if I succeed and also keep myself accountable. But yeah, that's where I'm starting from. I've been thinking about since like as an adult. So I thought I'd start researching GoGoNihon like in 2020, like during the midst of COVID, or 2021. But based on my doc, I started actually researching in 2023, which just feels so off. I guess I was just like in my young, reckless, young adulthood in 2020 to 2022, I guess. Anyways, I have a Google spreadsheet. I can also link that in the description if you want. It's just basically a spreadsheet of choosing between Koko Japan or GoGoNihon, and like the different cities they offer, the amount of tuition at the time. I think it might have changed by now because that's like a year ago of researching. And there's different things I like about the location, like, oh, I like the more traditional Japan, the samurai vibes, or like the more nature, like if it's close to the mountains or the sea or stuff like that. So that's what the spreadsheet is on. And I was picking between GoGoNihon or Koko Japan, which are very similar. GoGoNihon has been around for much, much longer, probably like over 10 years, maybe close to 15, I think. And Koko Japan at the time I think was around for 3 to 4, maybe 5 years now. So I did a bunch of that research, and then I took a break on that to go start saving. And saving 2023 was really hard because of, again, being a really reckless adult. Like once you start getting adult money, or like working an actual job, like a job, you start getting reckless money. I used to be really good at saving in high school on my allowance, but then like that all went away. My frugal whatever just went out the window as an adult. So here I am in 2024, almost 2025, finally doing it maybe 4 years later. I feel like I'm so behind. I've talked about this with friends, and like older friends or younger friends that are my age. I feel like I'm behind, but a lot of them said like it's good to go on a break, especially it makes sense because of COVID, pushing things back, and I'm fine. I'm in a good spot right now being 22 and like finally doing steps, even though it's a very long, technically like gap year. I have friends who've been on gap years since high school, so, which is basically me, but they have like no ambitions to go do anything, so it's just, everyone's a different process of life, and I have to learn that, or I'm still learning that as I'm talking to more people. I love them who are in like almost in their 30s and they're like, yeah, I regret like going straight to college, or I have friends right now who are my age who are like, ooh, don't go to college yet, or obviously do community college, but like I kind of regret going to school directly because here I am. And I still don't know what to do. So I have to say, if you get to take anything from this video aside from GoGoNihon, for some reason I feel like they've been behind since middle school. It's a rough, like, self-loathing kind of journey sometimes, which I don't self-loathe often, I guess, but it's something in my head where I just always stopped at. 2023 was rough because I think that's when I got into my car accident in beginning of 2023, and that set me back by a lot, mostly because of stress. And I am so dumb for this. I didn't see this at the time, but I should have saved the money I got from a car accident. It wasn't my fault. Somebody like drove into me basically, and I got like $5,000 back plus I think another $1,000 because of my whatever I had left in savings. So I had $6,000. I honestly could have gone to Japan just with that. But my small brain was one, looking for a car because I was in that rush mindset of like, oh, I need a car now. I can't do anything else. So I was in that mindset, and then I switched to, I think around when I started making the spreadsheet and thinking about it more seriously in May 2023. It's when I started to be serious about saving. But then I got caught up with like hanging out with friends and doing fun stuff and going out to eat, and that really like. I almost spent like 5K honestly. I think not 5K. I spent like 4K because I had 2,000 left. Beginning of 2024. Being really transparent about that. I hate myself for it too. I'm like, I keep thinking about it sometimes, like it flashes in my head. I'm like, damn, I was so fucking dumb. But also I'm like, I was also a young adult, and that's I feel like young adults always do now, especially in an era of like overconsumption and whatever. Sorry, I'm just like waving this cup around and like the sounds of it, but okay. So I seriously started saving this beginning 2024 January with $2,000 roughly, and I was hoping to get to 6,000 by June. Now, why 6,000 specifically? That's because GoGoNihon has their cost of living calculator on their website, and that gave me a general idea of how much to save up. And even in their like FAQ section, they give you a lot of different numbers. And at the time, I believe it said like 1 million yen for 6 months to like accommodations, maybe a little bit of utilities, rent, food, stuff like that. And that roughly translates to $6,000. So that was my goal. But now it says 1,200,000 yen for 6 months, which is roughly $8,000. I don't know, and that's without flights, by the way, without flights. So we'll get into that later with the numbers specifically. There's a lot of factors that can go into that, right? There's like the conversion rates for the yen. It could be like our dollar could be more stronger or weaker compared to now or then. I think right now the dollar is like more, it's definitely more stronger than the Japanese yen, I believe, based on what people have been telling me. And it's a conversion. Back then, you can kind of convert roughly 100 yen to $1, right? But now it's like so off. Unfortunately, I feel like it was so much easier to do math back then, but now it's like, well, I don't know. Some people say the cost of living is not that bad, and based on the numbers I've seen in converting it to USD, it's definitely not as bad as America right now. Especially where I'm at, is a case where we're definitely becoming more urbanized. I don't know if that's the word or not. I think we're definitely developing more. We used to be like more rural to suburban area, but now we're definitely becoming more urban and city-like. I'm super close to one of like our major cities in North Carolina. I am seeing the prices right. I didn't have to shop for a house because of living with my grandparents and stuff, but I've talked to friends who are moving and everything, and they are telling me I have to struggle. So based on the videos I've seen of Japan, people talking about it, and like I'm already shopping accommodations right now, which I won't talk too much in this video. I'm gonna save that for the next video update. That was my goal, $6,000. Hoping for it by June, so I can leave hopefully in October or at most January, because I want to go there for the cooler month. I am not a summer girl at all. I hate the sun. Like you see the sun right now. That's because I usually have blackout curtains, and I hate the sun. I hate being humid. It affects my mood so much, and I don't want to be petty. It sounds so petty in first world problems, which is not even debatable if America's the first world anymore, but I digress. I just want to be there for the cooler months, also for like the hot springs and the more like festive stuff. Obviously you can't do October, it's already passed. So I'm going for January, but I had a lot of issues back and forth with that. In the end of it, I hit, sorry I keep looking over here, my laptop's right here charging. So I hit my goal by August. So if I started with 2,000 this year and I hit my goal in August, to get 6,000 I had to save 4,000 in 8 months, which is not the most ideal. I was hoping to get over, I was hoping to save 1,000 each month, and then that's how I figured I'd hit by June, but then because of whatever factors going on, it took a while, whatever car things were happening with my parents' van that I was driving at the time, and then like having to get a new car that I didn't spend. Just happened to get one by luck, by fortunate, kind of fortunate events. Stuff like that ended up happening that put me back a little bit, and I obviously got frustrated every time it happened. But I hit it finally, so in August it took basically like, what, the math is being like 500 each month, which sounds about right because I've been calculating all my stuff to make sure I get those, how much I save each month, and it's usually roughly, that sounds about right I believe, roughly from either 300 to 600 a month depending on how my income and stuff worked. I work 2 jobs, so I definitely tried to hustle there. I worked a job that's like basically minimum wage for roughly, I think I want to say around 10 hours a week. Definitely not much because I had some weeks where I worked one day out of the week that's like 4 or 5 hours, and then now that it's picking up and being busier, I've been working like roughly 10-ish hours a week. So and then my other job I work roughly, right now I'm working usually 12, but then roughly recently it's been 15, 17, because of holidays picking up. So it's been a rough time. I wanted to apply myself and maybe get a 3rd job because I do have the free time, but I don't want to do that because I like my personal me time kind of thing. But with those 2 jobs, it slowly got me there. I definitely could have worked more jobs at my higher paying job, or more hours at my high paying job. I just didn't want to because it's very physically intensive with the warehouse job. I'm loading these like 18-wheel trucks kind of thing, so it's rough and it's hard to do for almost 30 hours because that's what I used to do when I first started. I'm not at that physical capacity to do it anymore now. I've been there for 4 years. I can't keep doing it like that. So I'm going on a random tangent. Moving on to finally getting the money and reevaluating and researching, refamiliarizing with my research information. Once I hit my goal, which is probably like mid-August, before I contacted GoGoNihon, I will cover why I picked GoGoNihon over Koko Japan, but before contacting them, I refreshed my research since it has been over a year. So the numbers I mentioned earlier in terms of like the yen, how much you need for 6 months, you can probably guess that I don't have enough for 6 months as I originally was hoping. And either because of the rise in cost of living in Japan, or I misremembered, miscalculated, whatever was going on, I just don't have enough for 6 months anymore. I would be struggling, and that's again without flights. So if I were to go 6 months with $6,000, which they would not let me do because you have to have like your bank statements to prove that you have the funds for 6 months. You need to have at least $8,000 over. I would not be approved for it, but if I did go on $6,000, my tuition is like, for the low end even, it's $1,500. For the flight, it's like $1,500. That's already $3,000. I have to figure out, and that's not even accommodation. Accommodation is like a whole other thing too. So I might be living in Japan for $1,000 for 6 months. That's unrealistic. So that's why a lot of it, you go for 6 months, you gotta self-sponsor. And when I see these people, or these people who talk about living abroad through GoGoNihon or different sources, I'm like, dang, you must be really rich or your family's really off, because I can't imagine you either have to be super successful at a younger age, like you got out of college, you got your like debts paid off hopefully, and then you're going to Japan now for like a couple years. That's like $24,000. I was struggling for a little bit, debating whether or not to go for 3 months or to go for 6 months. You already know based on the things I've said already that I went for 3 months, but it was a little sucky to decide that at the beginning, because since I was little and like started learning more about GoGoNihon, I was hoping to go for a year. And then it turned to 6 months when I figured out a year could probably mean $12,000, and that's unrealistic to save up for on a minimum wage job, and a job that's physically intensive. I probably have to work at my warehouse job for like several more years and just waste my young adult life away like that. So I settled for 6 months because that seemed more reasonable, and it is more reasonable at the end of the day. But then I had to settle for 3, which I'm okay with it now, because since I live with my grandparents, I mostly take care of my grandparents now. I don't want to be away from them too long, in the sense of like I should have to take care of them more. I don't think their time is up kind of thing, but in case something scary happens, I want to have a chance to get there as possible instead of having to come back either 6 months to a year. Yeah, I just know that's going to be a big gap when I leave, because even now as we're talking about it with my grandparents and my family, there's nothing you can do without Vita. Vita does everything for you, what do you do kind of thing. So I'm kind of like made peace with going for 3 months now. Self-sponsoring, unrealistic. It says here in my numbers it'll be at least 16,000 because of flights and everything. Here are some of the factors that played into my decision making. Like I mentioned earlier, since I have 6,000 and right now the minimum requirement is roughly 8,000, $2,000 is not bad to save up for. Like I could save up 2,000 with holiday hours and holiday extra pay maybe. I could probably get there sooner in the rest of the year. So if I was still in August and I saved up until the end of December, I could still probably make it. To be more comfortable, I would say instead of 8,000, it'd be more reasonable to say $10,000 to include that ticket to go like back and forth. $10,000, saving up 4,000 again, it's probably end up being like 8 months depending on if I keep the same work ethic, and that's gonna change me into like a whole time bracket, and it kind of adds to my feeling of being behind again, which is, I'll be 23, which is not unreasonable. Obviously not unreasonable age, I'm still in my young 20s and everything. It's just a matter of like, do I want to stay at my job longer? I think I'll still be in a good time bracket if it takes me 8 months, because it's August, December to... So yeah, I'll be going around the summertime into the fall, which is, it's still gonna be hot. I heard Japan's summers are super humid, but at least I'm gonna go more into the cooler months, and then I'll be there for 6 months, so I'll be there by the end of 2025 into 2026, so fresh year. But yeah, it's just a matter of like, can I wait that long? I also want to add that I think $6,000, at the time of writing this up, I thought $6,000 for 3 months I'd be really comfortable. Looking at it now, I don't know, I don't think I'm exactly gonna go into Japan with $6,000, I already paid my tuition, I'll get to that later, but that brought me down to $4,600, and then I saved up now at $6,300, and that window, my AC is loud. I'm back up to that, but then I have to pay for my flight, round trip, and then I have to pay for my accommodations. So that's probably gonna bring me down to $4,000, I'm hoping. Maybe like $3,500 depending whatever I leave with here. So that's kind of scary, because like if I divide, let's say, fucking car, I hate that fucking car, it's so fucking loud. It's even worse when you wake up early in the morning with a different car. Anyways, if I leave here with like $3,500, divide that by 90 days to like limit myself, that's a scary number to think of, because you also gotta like think about the transporting in Japan, like either taking the train or whatever, and then you also gotta worry about food for the day. So let me do the math really quick for you guys. 90 days. I'm basically living on almost $40 there, which is like, Japan thankfully is like really cheap to find food in. I don't know about the transport like situation, but $40 a day is not bad considering like my lifestyle right now. I don't really spend much during the week. I just make my bigger purchases on like 1 to 2 days out of the week kind of thing. So that's not bad. It's just I think in Japan I'll be eating out more because one, I want to try the new food, I want to explore and stuff. I don't know how often I grocery shop there because I heard grocery shopping in Japan is a lot more, right? So a little iffy about that. We'll see how I fare when I get there, how I organize my life and just everything. Again, don't know about transport. I know they have like the train cards, they can load up, but I don't know how much it takes each trip. I want to think it's kind of cheap because like we have buses here, and like the buses in North Carolina at least are very, very cheap. My friends are like, oh, I go on the ride for 10 cents and whatever, and I'm like, 10 cents? Why am I not taking this bus? better than fucking gas right now for a car. I want to think it's not, maybe obviously not 10 cents I think over there, but probably like I'm hoping $3 to up to $10.15 is my max. But I'm thinking that out of $40 a day, that's gonna look a little rough. And also I can't do as much fun things as I want to, like, oh, I can't go to like shopping. I think the most important thing I want to go to is the bathhouses and the hot springs. And I feel like that's gonna be a lot more money than I think it's gonna be. So that's why I'm like, for a bathhouse, for food, and for a train, that sounds a lot. Obviously I go to the bathhouse every day, but I digress. I just want to do the, it's just, I'm just saying, at the end of it, it's just gonna be hard to figure out the budget within that, since I've obviously never been there, and I don't know too much about the numbers and logistics and stuff. So at the time, I thought 6,000 for 3 months is gonna be comfortable, but we'll see. I'm hoping to bring as much as possible and still saving up since August still. Another factor to why I decided for 3 months is because I don't know what could happen in the time of August to going in January in terms of emergency. So like same thing with the car situation I had earlier this year, where I had to help pay for this car part in my parents' van because I was driving it, so it's only fair that I help pay for this new thing or whatever. They were like, I need $300 from you, and I was like, fuck, bitch. So I just don't want that to happen again, and it either be like a couple hundred to up 1,000. So I will just, the chances are lower in the shorter time I have to save up, because I think it's more likely of a chance of something happening in 8 months to a year compared to like 4 months until I finally go in terms of like money saving wise. So I thought that'd be nice, especially also with family. Like I don't know if it's gonna happen with my family in those like up to 8 months. Whether it's health with me, health with family. I had my new car already gave me trouble within the first couple months. My check engine light came on, so thankfully it wasn't anything serious, but it could have been serious. So I kind of predicted it. I was very fortunate for it not to be anything bad. And the last factor into deciding why not to go for 3 months or 6 months. So I think it's just 3 months is a good travel run. That's how GoGoNihon advertised it mostly. It's a good travel run. I think it's a good way to see if I like Japan, if I like staying there. A good enough time to still travel, look around, we'll see, because I'm most likely busy with school, but I'll try to go to like the different cities. Like I'm hoping to go to like Hokkaido, obviously Kyoto, maybe a little bit south. So I think it's still possible to do that, I'm hoping. Since I'm ultimately going for 3 months, that changes my original plans. I was originally hoping to go to Kofu, which is more of a, I think suburban, it seems, maybe rural area that's more towards the mountains and like hot springs kind of thing. Hoping to go there, but they require you to go at least 6 months and up. So I couldn't go there for 3 months, unfortunately. It changes a bunch of things and narrows my scope on options. So I had other cities in mind, like Sapporo, Kyoto, maybe Okinawa, and even looked at schools in those cities. I screenshotted those. But ultimately, I think it narrowed me down to like the big stuff like Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo. There's a little bit of Sapporo. I think maybe Yokohama, stuff like that. I've been talking a lot. I'm probably like 40 minutes into this video now and have not hit any content. As I've said, if you don't want all this extra stuff, go read the doc. But I've been talking a lot in debating and whatever, deciding and everything. And I still have been contacting GoGoNihon. And honestly, I had like a small back and forth. Like a complete, like maybe a couple hours of thinking, maybe a day to think of like, do I really want to do this kind of thing? Because it's like the fear of change, the fear of like, I don't want to spend this money that I've worked so hard to spend. Because it's like the most cash, not cash, but like the most money I've had in my life. So it was like that anxious inside of me kind of thing, and I was going between like, maybe I should contact them, I'll just wait a little bit and to see how I fare or whatever. But I just took the dive. I contacted GoGoNihon before I talked myself out of it, and I figured I can get some advice from them in terms of like, I don't want to overthink my city or like overthinking schools and stuff like that, because that's what ultimately is going to lead me to like procrastinating basically. So I contacted them just to get it going, hoping to get advice, and I just have to keep reminding myself this is going to be a fun experience. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's potentially going to help me so much career-wise, help me grow as a person-wise, help me just do a bunch of things I want to do in terms of like moving or living abroad. So just keep that in mind and just plowing through. I feel like everyone can relate to that, where like you're in a tight spot, you don't know where not to like leave this mostly comfortable lifestyle, but now it's not. I feel like I'm more pushed. Thankfully the election happened and maybe it's having me push more to being excited. And also finally doing it, I've had other people who support me, like my managers, my friends and stuff. I'm so happy to do it because they also give me their support and tell me like, Viana, you're like doing so good, I'm so proud of you for like saving up, so proud of you for finally doing what you've been wanting to do. So it makes me really happy. My family, they're not too necessarily supportive about that. They haven't like gave me those same words. They're like, oh, that's good for you to like go do what you want, just be safe kind of thing. But like my managers and my friends have been really nice about that, and it's really reassuring. So if you're kind of in the same situation where like I don't really know, but you do have the money, you're just not too sure if it's gonna be worth it or not, I'm just gonna be able to tell you like, you should do it. Even though I haven't even done it yet, I haven't started even going there, I'm not even in Japan yet. I just want to say do it. Just to do it. I feel like, well, I should say just do it. Do it if that's something you've been wanting to do for so long. Before I go into like the conversations with my coordinator / advisor, I call him advisor, but they call themselves the coordinator. In this video, I use them as interchangeable words kind of thing. But why did I pick GoGoNihon over Koko Japan? Again, a myriad of reasons. I think I used that word correctly, right? Myriad of reasons. Mostly because GoGoNihon offers more information overall. Like most of the information I'm going to tell you is from them. Even before like actually contacting them, you can get a lot of information on like the application process. There's the cost of living calculator that really helps you out. You have so much information on like the locations, schools, and length of times for studying on varying prices. I think Koko Japan has like a handful of cities, maybe 2 handful of cities, whereas GoGoNihon has like definitely a lot more. Probably like not double, but maybe like a handful more than Koko Japan, I want to say. Definitely a lot more schools and more varying prices. So if you look at my spreadsheet, a lot of the Koko Japan, they didn't have like 3 months options, which I didn't really mind at the time because I didn't think I would go for 3 months. But now that I am going, it's hard to go with Koko Japan just because of that. GoGoNihon is very transparent with their prices. You can see all their prices when you click on schools for how long, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years kind of thing. And there's also the cost of living, which will tell you a lot of school, utilities, transportation, money, like for eating and stuff. They're also very transparent about the cost of accommodations as well, in terms of like share houses, dorms, stuff like that. So that's also another part of it. GoGoNihon has partnered or has been recommended by a lot of Japanese YouTubers or Japanese content makers who are foreigners most of the time and use or recommend GoGoNihon to go abroad. So they have that influencer YouTuber connection and overall just a lot of good opinions about them. So that's why I picked GoGoNihon over Koko Japan. Finally, getting into the conversation with my advisor. That took roughly an hour. It's okay, as expected. This video might be like 3 hours long. I said in my last video I can make a 3-hour video. This might be the one. Because I'm only on page 2 out of 8. I will say off the bat, I will get more into detail about it at the end of the video and my opinions of the service overall and how I felt. But I will say at the beginning that I was a little disappointed in my experience with GoGoNihon because of maybe high expectations or misconceptions of them and their services. There's a very fine line, I feel like, of financial advisor and then like the coordinator for this service that I have to like separate from. I will get to that later. Based on the videos I've seen and people talk about GoGoNihon and their advisors, I expected someone to give you a very personalized experience, but I feel like I didn't get that. They did answer like the baseline questions, such as my technical questions, clarifying the application timeline, the visa stuff, key information on when to apply for accommodation, flights, etc. Which is good. Good to be very knowledgeable in those areas. That is their job. I think expectations-wise, for me, I had high expectations because I expected a more personalized conversations, advice. The best analogy I can give to explain what I'm expecting would be someone like a college advisor or someone who was like a salesperson. So you would tell them that you expect what you're interested in or what you're looking for, and they'll pinpoint, show, inform you, guide you to the product that will help you, your needs, or whatever you want, or through the process of whatever it is. I'm basically like a sales associate at my minimum wage job, and I would say I'm pretty good at it. I've been told like I'm a good worker and stuff. So like it's like listening to the customer and be like, I am sick. What do I do, or what tea should I drink to help with this ailment? And I'll be like, okay, I recommend this. You should do this. Also, it's a tip for you to do this and this and this. So I was expecting something like that. Now I haven't been to college, but based on what my friends have told me with their personal like college advisors, they help you like figure out like what pathways to go through, pathways and classes and stuff, right? To get to your degree. So they'll be like, okay, so if you want to go to mechanical engineering, you need to do this set of prerequisites before you go into these classes, and then you can choose like there's this different route if you want to go something specific like cars or whatever, right? So I was thinking kind of something like those affected my questions or like the extra special notes I had in my contact form, because the way you contact them is through a simple like normal form you would see anywhere, like maybe it's customer support form on some websites where you just type in your name, email, and you type in like your age, how much you know, if you know something Japanese, what cities you're interested in, and how long you want to go for, I believe is what I put in. And I asked a lot of questions in the special notes part, so some being why not actually go for 3 to 6 months and what would they advise. I expressed what kinds of cities I would want to be in. Like again, I would prefer to be more in the rural to suburban areas just because that's what I'm used to, and I think cities would be too hectic for me based on what I've seen in terms city-wise here, and I can't imagine how more of a city vibe Tokyo will even be. So I would prefer somewhere like more nature-based and more like closer to like the traditional Japanese like Kyoto or like Nagano vibe, I believe. But yeah, I listed some cities to be specific that I like to stay at, what their opinion would be on those, assuming if, you know, I assume they're like living in Japan, they worked in Japan before, so they can tell me more about those and what it's actually like. Like, oh, like you think Nagano is more like rural, but maybe it's actually more like suburban and it's beginning to be more urban, like urbanized, if that's the word. Like, you know what I mean? Like something like that I was hoping to get. Help me manage my expectations kind of thing. That being said though, the response I got back was a little underwhelming. If you're looking at the document while listening to this video or watching this video, you'll see that the text for my advisor is in red, and then my responses to them are in green, and a couple other links too. That's why I recommend going to the doc, and I am listing it in the description below, just so you can have a better idea of who's saying what and like whatever extra tidbit they have in there. My first response back from them, and it was just mostly an email contacting, or kind of like a portal. They have you like log in and you can contact in their portal, but it was kind of almost like you get a message from my email and they'll link you to the portal kind of thing. But it was mostly just information on the 6-month application process, documents you need to submit a visa application, how the visas even work for student visa specifically, and key information such as the importance or the effect of picking the right term to start, which I think is really, really great to know because of like either how your life is, where you're going at what point in your life. So if you're just finished college and you're going to go to Japan either for like that business degree or like you want to get some, you know, Japanese in before you start like your maybe for advanced education in college, there's like a certain time for that to like line up with the GLPT exam. You may be going like for a summer kind of thing between schools or whatever. So it's more important, like the big term is more important than you think it is what was great to learn actually. I really appreciate this article they have, again, linked in my document. I was very close to picking the April term for multiple reasons throughout this process. Reading this article is one of them. So earlier I talked about how if I kept saving, I'd most likely have to go for the April term, which I wouldn't mind. That's like my birthday month. That'd be fun. A good gift for me. But also because of this article, I was saying how April was a good month to go to because that's the start of like basically refreshing the system, and it's a good time for new students and new like learners to basically have a good fresh start with like other people at a beginner level. You'll be able to go for like the maximum 2 years kind of thing. Because if you go like say in October, it can push, you might have to like do some different thing, or some school might be limit you to, oh, you can only be here for like a year and 6 months instead of 2 years because of like you started this term. The article explains it a little better than I do. Maybe I should have pushed it to April, but now I'm in that process. I feel like I'm gonna commit because I'm excited and I'm just ready to go. Overall, good information to have, but it wasn't the advice I was hoping. Like, he didn't comment on like when I should go for 3 months or 6 months. And I will admit that they are not a financial advisor. That's what I mentioned earlier, where maybe my expectations are getting messed up with unreasonable expectations or unreasonable misconceptions. So I just decided to go for 3 months of my own, as you've clearly seen. I told them I was going to go for 3 months, clarifying that I'll be self-sponsoring me. I don't keep want to be redundant with that. Then I'm self-sponsoring. Next message after I said like I'll be going for 3 months and everything, they came back and clarified that I don't need to provide a proof of funds if I'm going for 3 months because I'll be on a tourist visa. Now, what is the difference between a tourist and a student visa? You can probably guess it based on what I've said so far. Tourist visa is like a normal, you don't really have to sign up for it as an American at least. Other countries I believe you do, depending on it, just look online at your embassies and stuff. But USA citizens don't have to do any signing up. Really just go to the airports. I believe you do like a little bit of stuff there. Your limit is 3 months. If you're going more than 3 months, you have to do a student visa, and the way that works, from what I understand, a very abridged version of it is that if you're going for a school, obviously because you're a student visa, you have to have the school like submit papers to the embassy of like how much you have. If you're being sponsored by your parents or whoever else, you have to show how much funds you have so you can prove that this person has enough money to stay in this country and like survive and everything on their own. And then once they identify you as a person, I guess, make sure you have the funds, then you'll have you send those reports to your embassy in the USA, and then they'll give you like this certification of proof that you're good to go. And once you have that actual student visa, you can go to Japan and stay for whatever long you be, 6 months and plus. That's the general version of how it works. Which is good for me because, one, I don't have to prove any funds, so that's mostly good I feel like, and I don't have to go through the extra long process. That being said, here's a nice tangent for you, just to be more informed. This allowed me to squeeze into a January class, because I did technically apply late August, and that may be pretty close to the deadline for, I think 6 months even, but still pretty close for 3 months. But because the application process for 3 months is super simple, you're taking away all that student visa, embassy stuff, it allowed me to squeeze into that January class, which I think even for them, they were like, oh, you basically have almost a month to still apply for it if you're not too sure. Just because how the timeline is different. If you're going for a student visa, you have to apply definitely like 6 months before, at least, I believe, even 6 months plus kind of thing, because of how long the embassies could take. And if I was going for 6 months and I applied in August, it's like a 4-month gap to get all the paperwork done, which would have been really, really hard. There is a negative to me going on a tourist visa, which is not being able to work. As I mentioned earlier, I have to budget and be very careful with my money because whatever I bring is all I got. Not working is a nice thing because I've been working pretty much straight up for the past 4 years, so I think it'd be a good break because my family's kind of people where you don't take breaks, you don't take vacation, you just work. You're on that grind. That's what happens when you have Southeast Asian parents that had 7 kids and you have to work for those kids. Livelihood kind of thing. Survival. So I'm happy for that break. It's just gonna be rough mentally to like figure out this money logistics. Going back on topic, I also want to preference that I don't remember fully everything they mentioned in these emails, and I can't go back to them because those emails are gone. I don't have access to them, I believe. And even when I deleted them from my email, they're already gone because it's been past, like, deleted. You know how emails self-delete themselves when they're in the trash for a long time. So I can't go back to those, but I believe in the same email, they listed 3 other schools that are currently accepting new students for January. All of them are in Tokyo, which I find interesting because I said in my contact form that I would prefer to go somewhere outside of Tokyo in a more rural suburban area. I feel like I've mentioned that in this video like a few times now. And to them be all in Tokyo was, I feel like, interesting because I feel like they were ignoring whatever I said. Like they didn't look at it, or like they completely forgot about it. Maybe they're servicing a lot of people right now, or they're advising a lot of people right now, so they can't pinpoint exactly which student said what they want to do with what. I don't hate Tokyo. I don't mind going to Tokyo because there's like, you know, levels to it, right? Like you can be in Shibuya and Shinjuku, or you can be more in the outskirts kind of thing. I'm sure there's levels to it, kind of like how North Carolina is. Like you can be close to Raleigh, or like the actual big city, which is Charlotte. You can be close to Charlotte, but like as you go to the skirts, it's like urban and suburban. They're very, very close to being like, you can be deep into the woods in rural area of North Carolina within like 30 minutes being in Charlotte still. So there's like, it could be variety like that, I'm sure, in Japan. Maybe on the same level, but you get what I mean, right? I also want to mention that I think it kind of gets tricky, and maybe I'm too much in my head about this, but if you go to the websites and the like as I mentioned, you can see the lengths of study for each school and their options for it. Some of them are only 6 month plans, so as I mentioned earlier, it narrows down your scope of cities, but also narrows down like how long you can actually go for them. So there's less cities that offer the 3 month option. And since I'm also applying super close to the January deadline, that further narrows my options. So maybe these were actually only 3 schools that were offering a spot for new students. I'm trying not to be too negative about like, oh, she completely ignored what I wanted in this contact form kind of thing, which sounds a little entitled to say, a little bit of, I don't think the word is petty, but maybe just entitled is the right word. And it's not like every city that only offers 3 months of school was only like the big places. There were some smaller places or more. There's more places outside of Tokyo basically. There was like Sapporo, I believe there's Okinawa, Osaka, Kyoto, whatever. There's still the major cities, but there's just like different levels to like it. Like I would rather probably live in Kyoto than Tokyo just because I like the exterior and the architecture of the traditional housing and traditional architecture. I probably would prefer Sapporo over. I definitely prefer Sapporo over Tokyo because one, it's definitely gonna be colder. There's definitely gonna be snow there, and it seems more suburban compared to like the big light city Tokyo. So I knew there were like options. I just didn't know. Because of like the closer to the end timeline, I didn't know how limited these options were. After being a little negative about that, 2 out of the 3 options you first listed are on my list. As I mentioned super long ago, I screenshotted the cities I was most, or the schools I was most interested in the schools I was most interested in the cities that I were interested in. I still look at Tokyo because I'm not 100% against Tokyo. I'm still looking at them. So 2 of the 3 are on my list, and they have very high potential. Them being Toyo Language School, or TLS School, TLS, or the Shinjuku Japanese Language Institution. I will go into why I like those 2 options in a bit. In the same email still, they gave the vibe that these are the only schools left. They left no comment of like, feel free to ask for more options if you're interested in, or you can ask for a school in a different city in particular. They didn't comment anything like that. They felt very like, this is it kind of vibe. This is it, it's all you have. So in my next email, I asked for more schools, I believe. I don't know if I asked for something else. I think that's all I asked for, maybe, depending, based on my memory. But next day, I should preference this again. By the way, they take a while to respond. They do like 1 message a day, basically. That's why I think they're located in Japan, based on like the timeline of how they messaged me. Because for me on the East Coast, I wouldn't get a message until like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. This conversation was a very long conversation and a very long process to get through in that regard. But for the update, they told me there are more schools available, and they listed 3 more cities, or 3 more schools for me. They didn't ask about my goals, or if I had something in mind, or cater to what I said in my contact form. I can't remember what those 3 new schools were, because I had no interest in them. They weren't on my list, or they might not have been the cities I were interested in to begin with. As you can tell, my brain's already a lot. If you've seen my channel before, or you watch me before, you know my brain is always like working in the most complex webs and tangles that I could possibly give myself. But now you can argue that, looking back at it, I should have asked up front for schools in the cities I was interested in. I should have been upfront and be like, hey, I want to be in Sapporo, or Sapporo. Can you give me schools like that there? Is there any options for that? Or Kyoto, or wherever. I didn't inquire further for a few reasons. Mostly because the process of messaging, as I mentioned earlier, is taking much longer than I would like. Second, I really like the first 2 schools that they mentioned earlier. Again, like some top options. I didn't want to keep asking when I already had a good idea what I would go for. And 3, based on the cost of living calculator, even for 3 months, I learned that some places are more expensive, so I would rather be living more comfortably instead of stressing for every dollar. So to give you numbers to be specific, I believe the school I ended up going for, the tuition was the cheapest out of the 2 by a few $100s, probably like $200 to $500 cheaper compared to the other school, which I think this is not a bad thing. It's also a matter of like books, since they don't go based on textbook learning. The other school had their own method, so it makes sense for them to have like, you need to pay for the materials. Other schools, they can be more expensive. Like looking at the schools in Sapporo, Kyoto, definitely Okinawa is like crazy. Based on the calculator, it kind of sucks, but I went with the most cheapest option, which I still think will be the most beneficial option based on what I have seen in their YouTube videos and how they do their teaching and their teachers specifically, and the process they do for that to help students improve. To finally get into the details of the school specifically, and doing a lot more research, like going to YouTube, going onto their specific pages on GoGoNihon's website, I will elaborate why these 2 schools were my tops. I have to go to work in like 14 minutes, so hopefully I can cover this area really quick, and then I'll try to film some more tomorrow. First I'm going to talk about Shinjuku, whatchamacallit? What do you say? What do they call it again? The Shinjuku Japanese Language Institution, or SJLI. I try to look at the schools overall in terms of like the classes, the ways they teach, the teachers, the facilities themselves, and then also like the area around it. So to start with, they have their own special way of teaching visually, which I am a visual learner. They use like these cards. It's called the Izoe method, I believe. And because of this visual focus, and they're very much study focused, so they do a lot of practice speaking Japanese with local Japanese college students because it is close to a university area. All this ends up leading to you making a lot of progress. And you also have the option to go for like a higher level class. So there's like, I think both of these schools are middle class, so you have that equal balance of like still having a life outside of Japan, but also you have a good amount of learning at school and stuff and studying. And the middle higher, I think it's like middle higher class is what it's called. Like, so there's middle class, there's the middle higher class level, whatever. It goes a little bit faster, which is what I'm used to. I can't say it's equal level, obviously, because I've never been in Japan, but I was one of those like honors AP kids in high school. It's not really a big difference, I feel like, based on the other classes I have seen, and I've been in like, not the lower level classes, but I've been with other students who are in the lower level classes, and it's not that big of a difference, to be honest. It's just a difference of depth of content, maybe, but I wouldn't mind doing that if I want to progress, or if you want to progress faster in your classes, or just progressing faster at Japanese. I would say that school is good for you, especially if you were going more for like, I want to learn how to speak it, listen to it. Also, to attribute to that, I watched a few of their videos of their students talking about their experience at the Shinjuku school, and a lot of them said like they're doing really good to the point where like they're able to get a good bit of knowledge and be mostly independent within like a year and a half of being at the school, a year and 9 months of being at the school, and you can already like, set things up by themselves. You don't have any like translators, any like extra help or from advisors or what. Their Japanese is already at an advanced level at a short amount of time, compared to other schools and videos I've seen. Moving on to like facility-wise, it's not in my notes, but I do remember like their facilities school-wise is a little bit more cramped. I don't want to say like, oh, I'm all about aesthetics, but I kind of am. Like my environment will affect how I'm learning. If I feel cluttered, I would feel some kind of way about that. I'm like, oh no, don't do that. Outside-wise, again, they're in that university area, and that leads to things being really affordable. I don't know if it's so much about like the housing, but I think somebody said it's a really good place to like live because of cheap accommodations, but also very cheap food and a lot of things to do for these students in terms of like maybe karaoke bars, the restaurants and stuff like that. So that was a really interesting option. That'd be good for me as someone who's trying to live on a budget. And there's still plenty to do, as I was saying. I was hoping to do more of the like extra stuff while being there on a budget. And the last good thing that was really fun was, even if I'm a student at the language school, I can use the university's facilities, like go to the library, go to like the lounge, the cafeteria, still interacting with these local Japanese students. So that's the Shinjuku Japanese Language Institution's benefits. Going on to the Toyo language school. So Toyo focuses on all-rounding skills and will have different teachers to show multiple perspectives of the language. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I would prefer to focus more on the reading, listening aspect because that's what I'm mainly going to be using it. Especially if I don't stay in Japan long term, but I still want obviously to read manga, listen to music, or like listen to the anime and still be able to like get through it and not rely too much on subtitles in that sense. But if I do live in Japan, obviously like I will have to focus on like the talking aspect as well. There's also one more, and writing. I also want to learn how to write it too. That'd be really cool. They also say they focus on personalizing your learning experiences based on needs. That's like from the YouTube videos I've seen. And the way they do it is that I think at the end of each semester, each term, they'll check in with you about your strengths and weaknesses, and there'll be no textbook space, which I think I mentioned that earlier as well. As you can probably guess, based on like what I've already said about GoGoNihon and my experience so far with it, I would like a more personal experience. I think that'd be really fun, and I also like talking about strengths and weaknesses and being more upfront with that. And they have really great facilities, like really great interior. I watched a few of their tour videos, and they look really neat, very organized. It's very of a cozy vibe, and the area in general is in a more residential area, it seems. I don't want to say it's gonna be like suburban vibes because it's still like in Tokyo, right? And it still gives like that cozy residential areas that you would see in like, you know, anime or whatever. But it's definitely more chill, it seems, because it's also close to parks and it's also close to the sea, which I think would have been really fun if I was going into like the summertime, obviously. But it's probably gonna be really cold when I'm going there for the winter. It's close to like the Disneyland and the Disney Sea. I'm not a Disney person, but that would be fun to do maybe during the springtime. And it's also not far from Shinjuku and Akihabara, so if I still want to go to like the area, it's like a good like subway ride, train ride there. That being said, what did I choose? I ended up staying with Toyo. I believe that was my top pick based on all the YouTube videos I watched, because there's a little bit of Shinjuku. Maybe it's because I didn't dig too deep into it, but there wasn't enough videos to kind of convince me on Shinjuku, even though there is a lot of evidence, including the students saying they're progressing really well and like the Zoe method they use. Overall, I just saw more in Toyo, and I wanted that balance. Again, personalized learning experience. I want to prioritize reading and writing and listening. Studying wise, it's pretty much over neck and neck, because I think if I wanted to make more progress, I would go to Shinjuku for the better option, and also for like the medium higher level classes if I was really in that focus right now. But because I'm going for more of a trial run and it's my first time in Japan, I think it'd be really fun just to have like a more balanced lifestyle and not just focus solely on school. And if I was doing this process again for a second time, maybe I would try to go to Shinjuku and see how things turn out there, more for the progress aspect of it, now that I know how I feel about living in Japan most likely at that time. Second reason for picking Toyo, you can probably guess on what I've said so far, I would prefer a more somewhat quieter life, so obviously don't know to what extent again, but compared to living in Shinjuku, which is like the busier area, I believe, one of the bigger, hardcore, crowded, dense populations, based on pictures and what I've seen, I would rather stay more in the park, close to the ocean. I feel like navigating the city would also be really hard to write. Based on like videos I've seen, like Trash Taste, their videos about like taking the subway and trying to meet up with people sounds so complicated. And I'm not awful with directions, but I'm not amazing with subways. Like, I've been to New York, which I'm sure are very different levels maybe, but like New York subway ways are confusing, I feel like. And I don't want to say this is like gonna be based on real life experiences because it's just a game, but Persona 5, when I first started playing that game, I was with my younger sibling, and they watched in horror as I got lost in this subway. They're like, where are you going? I was like, I don't fucking know. Everything looks the same. It's confusing. So I can't imagine how it will be when I actually get there. Lastly, unfortunately, this plays a bigger role than I would like to admit. But Toyo has a cheaper tuition, and overall, I think about $500 cheaper to go to. I guess because of Shinjuku's like patented teaching style, and along with their textbooks, it's gonna be more expensive to go through. Because Toyo doesn't have like necessary textbooks, I believe. I don't have to pay extra for that later or upfront. I think Shinjuku says you have to pay for textbooks later. So that's just in terms of money costs, and it's my first time going. I want to try to minimize cost as much as possible. So my response back to my advisor was my final choice on Toyo, and I gave them my elaborate reasons why I picked them, like I just gave you guys. Their response back was like, no question, no comment, or reassurance on my reasons. Again, not the most comforting feeling. Let's go straight into confirming my school once again and studying the actual application process. And this is where we get into like the nitty-gritty and kind of fast forwarding, but let me take a couple like steps back because of like some mishaps. But I am able to clearly recall everything that happened because there is an online portal that I can log into and all our chat logs are still there. I'm not going to show you the chat logs because that'd be a lot. I feel like it'd be easier to see it, right? But just to like break it down and not like invade too much privacy or whatever in their business stuff, I'm going to just walk you through. Okay, so the application process going into the portal started on September 9th. So again, I think I messaged them around like the last week of August, so that's a good time to get chatting and deciding school and length of time or whatever. So this is where things get serious because I am in a portal, but I think you can still back out this time if you're still not too sure. Because you're not like, you didn't submit an application to get accepted into a school, and even then when you do get accepted into school and you pay tuition, there are still ways to like back out of it. It'll just like, you might not get as much money back if you like have already paid for your tuition basically. That depends on the school. Just make sure you like read their conditions. Basically a questionnaire, kind of similar to the contact form when you're doing GoGoNihon. It asks for who you are, emergency contact, how much Japanese I know, if at all, and 3 documents, a personal photo, which is like a most recent image of yourself in a similar format to the passport picture. I don't usually take pictures, so I had to go out of my way to do this. And it's so weird because it looks so different from a passport picture. I have to include my passport ID and then my birth certificate. All done on September 10th. Took a day, very simple. And I'm going to give you actual dates. This is nice too. Next day, September 11th, moment of silence. Application was sent to the school to be accepted / processed. September 12th, it is time to transfer my tuition payment. So I got I got accepted to Toyo Language School, and now it's time to pay for tuition because there's a lot of trouble with tuition. I think most of this document is actually like just the mess that paying tuition was. And I have to go on a lot of side tangents to kind of explain everything because it was a mess in my head at the time. And it's another reason why I was so close to switching to the April term or just not going at all because of like how sketchy it was starting to feel. First off, GoGoNihon gave me 3 options of payments: Wise, which is once known as TransferWise, Flywire, and just the standard international bank transfer. You would just go through your bank like normal, standard, whatever. And my deadline to pay was September 27th. So reminder, I got the task. It's all like tasks and stuff you have to do. There's like the chat, there's the tasks. They'll give you like your tasks. You just get mark it as complete, upload your documents, whatever, as you go for each step of the process. So my application form was a task, checked it off, done. Yeah, I got my task on September 12th. My deadline is September 27th, which is a Friday. I think September 12th was, let me pull my calendar. September 12th was a Thursday, so my deadline was on basically 2 weeks of time. Since this is my first time transferring a large sum of money and hearing about these services, I did a lot of research into Wise because it was the most recommended from my GoGoNihon advisors. As you can tell, I love my research. I want to be really careful, especially money-wise. And as I also mentioned earlier, I was really nervous and getting too much in my head about like if I should even begin this process or not because I don't want to lose the money I've worked so hard to save, which is like normal. I feel like any given dollar, any person who's spent so much time saving money and like really hammering for every dollar, you're gonna feel some kind of way about it too. You want to be extra cautious. So I did a lot of research, so that added a lot of stress, you could say, as the deadline got closer because of how messy it got. Let me explain what Wise is and how it can be useful in Japan really quick and why GoGoNihon recommends it throughout multiple times in this process. I feel like every time I have to explain Wise, it just gets like messier and messier. I try to keep it as simple as possible. But basically, it is a service, not a bank. It's a service where you can make a multi-currency account. So basically, it means like I can have USD, I can have or American dollars, I can have Japanese yen, I can have UK pounds, whatever, euros. I can have it all in one account. I'm able to like switch currencies by having like different mini not accounts, yeah, but like mini parts of the account where I have like a specific amount of like euros, a specific amount of like US dollars, a specific amount of yen, whatever. And you can use that to easily pay or transfer money to different areas and not have to worry too much about conversion rates. And Wise will give you the smallest conversion rate at the time at a very competitive rate. And based on what I have reached to compared to other companies, it's definitely one of the lower rates. They have very low fees, and I think it's even got lower recently because of a new update they did. Yeah, it's really good, again, to transfer money. So if I'm sending money to like maybe my family in Laos or whatever, or my friends in Europe or Asia per se, or Australia, I can upload money to my account, easily transfer either or convert it to like Australian money and just send it there with like minimum fees for a very short amount of time. Or I can just like send it from USD dollars to straight just to Australian dollars kind of thing. And I'll just hold it in there. Now say you are in Japan already and they will give you a debit card. You have to be in your original home country to get your debit card first and then bring it to the country. So like, get your debit card to fly over to Japan and you can use that debit card as long as you put money into your account and it's in Japanese yen or USD dollars. There's an additional benefit to that. But you can use that debit card and go around using the card without any conversion rates as you go. So if you use like an American card, bank card, debit card, credit card, in Japan it's going to give you a conversion rate of like, oh, it's going to be a little bit extra because of this fee, but also conversion rate, which is usually pretty high with your normal bank card. It's going to be more expensive than you actually think it is. But if you use just like the Wise debit card, it'll even out to exactly what they're saying in the app. And it's easy to keep track of instead of like, oh, I'll have to wait for bank statements later to see how much I actually spent, which I think is going to be very dangerous. If I go to Japan without it, I'm trying to save as much as possible, but I don't know how much is even being taken out the day of or even like a couple days later kind of thing. So that's a really good benefit of it. Going back to what I was saying about you can have like the multiple currencies in the account. So say you run out of Japanese yen on your Wise debit card, it will use like smart technology to pull the rest of the remaining money and for that payment. So say I'm buying something that's like 5,000 yen, so like maybe $50-ish roughly, and I only have 3,000 yen on the debit card, but I have like $40 USD on there. It's gonna pull the remaining yen and then take out the leftovers from the US dollars kind of thing. It's easier to see like it on the Wise website, but just to give you a general idea, that's basically how Wise works. It can be really beneficial for travelers and stuff. Now the only catch and the sucky thing about this is that Wise does not currently send cards to the USA. And they have implemented this pause, basically, this break, since March of this year. So I have no idea. There's no news or update about when they're bringing it back. I highly doubt it that they're going to bring it back in time for me when I go to Japan, because I'm going to go beginning of January. I thought about this recently, but I think it would not be the best idea to start sending cards in like December when the holidays have picked up and the mailing service is a little crazy. I think USPS, the United States Postal Service, they, I think, closed down by December 13th kind of thing. So I don't think they're going to start sending them out December. It might honestly be like exactly a year when they start picking up in America again. And again, you have to open or activate your card in the USA before you, or in your home country before you go abroad or whatever. So I highly doubt I'm able to do that unless they somehow come in clutch beginning of January, but extremely unlikely. And you cannot have a digital card either. They have, for some reason, I feel like a digital card would have been easier because you're not actually sending anything. You just gotta like open it up, but they don't offer digital cards either. So that was very disappointing after I've done so much research, because I didn't really learn about them not sending cards to the US until as I was making an account and I was pretty comfortable with, oh, I can do Wise perfectly. Oh, it's worth it. That's why they recommend it, because of all those benefits. It was just very unfortunate that as an American person, I couldn't do that after so much research, and I only learned about it towards the end as I making an account, because, oh, you're American, it tells you, oh, you're American, you can't get a debit card by the way, but you can still transfer money. So I was like, well, I do need to transfer money right now, so I guess I'll just do that. But there's still more trouble. So I continue to make my account because Wise will still send it at the lowest rate. And it'll also be the quickest. So I typed it because this does add into like the timeline wise. I took a couple days of research, right? But then once I started making my accounts, I had to get verified. And I think you have to be verified first before you start doing anything. I want to be verified just in case, you know? So I had to like add my IDs or whatever, my face, to make sure I'm the right person, and wait to get verified, which they said takes a very short amount of time on Wise, like 1 day at most. I look at their FAQ page, it says up to a few business days at most, so I had to wait, and that was like during the weekend kind of thing. So I think by Tuesday or Wednesday, I was like, I'm not verified yet, I'm gonna fucking contact them through like customer service. They were very lovely. Wise has really amazing people on there. They were able to get me verified, figure out what's going on. I got verified literally in like 10 minutes, so if I was gonna recommend Wise, I would always say their customer service is really, really good, and their videos and education, like their YouTube channel is really nice as well. So I love their, I don't want to say their aesthetics, but their app and stuff is like really well organized and very like well laid out. It looks really good. Really good like interface. Finally got transferred, so I started trying to send the money roughly 6 days since the start of this task. When I got the task, there's a long list of the options, right? It also gives you a long list of the bank details to use when you are, if you're using Wise, here's the bank details to send it to the school's bank or school's account. And mostly simple process. I had a couple of like hiccups where like, what's the difference between like a province and a city and this and this? I was like, is Tokyo not a city, or is Tokyo like a province or a district? I was confused for a second. I was like, because you kind of Google it and it kind of gives you both. It's like, yeah, it's a province or like a district and a city. And I was like, so what's this Edogawa? Is that a city? Or like, you know? So I had to like do a couple hours of research on that to figure that out. But then that like copy and paste, you can figure it out by like kind of ruling them out, power of deduction, different words as well. The words, I swear, the numbers and the Chrome numbers. I was like, huh? Anyways, the biggest hiccup was the postal code. I did not get a postal code, so I had to message my advisor on everything. So that was on Wednesday, September 18th. I informed them first that Wise didn't offer cards to the USA, but I will still transfer with Wise. I just let them know just so they can tell their other customers who are in the USA about it, so they don't recommend it too hard to them and have their expectations set up and then waste their time about like all this like I did basically. That's why I informed them. What is the postal code? And asking them to confirm the address breakdown. I think my advisor misunderstood why I brought up Wise and the whole debit card thing, because they explained that I have to contact Wise for that. I already did. I actually asked them when I was doing customer service to verify my account. I asked them, do you think you bring back the USA like debit card kind of thing? And they said we don't know yet. So I did already ask them before messaging my advisor again. But they were like misconfused. They misunderstood or were confused about that. Which I think my message was pretty clear. So I don't know if it's just because like they misread it or there was a lot going on and they just like they saw a spew about like why she needs to assume like, oh, she's asking us about that. I'm like, no, like what? Anyways, I'm not gonna look too into it. I wasn't asking them for help if you like read through the text, but I tried to ignore that. Again, try to be nice because it could just be misunderstanding, not trying to dig into it. Next he said after that, all the information needed to make the transfer, like the bank information, is already in the task, and they were very adamant that the postal code is not needed. And I was like, they kind of added to the weirdness about them and why, because they seemed uninformed about it, like they didn't know the ins and outs, which they shouldn't because that's not their job. They're not financial advisors, they're not wise advisors. You could argue that they don't handle the money themselves because it goes directly to the school. They're recommending it as a service, so they wouldn't handle that money at all. So it's not their fault that they don't know about like the debit card or about the postal code. They may not have staff in America to know about it or staff in general to check the logistics of the money transferring app or the money transferring companies that they're recommending. Maybe also there's a situation that maybe they just started using Wise and recommending it, or they don't. I don't know how many USA students come through, but maybe none of them chose to use Wise, so they were informed from other customers. I'm the first person to actually decide to use Wise, and I'm bringing it up to them for the first time. The end of this, I just feel like they're not informed enough about Wise, and therefore should be recommending it to certain customers like this until their team is trained on it. Basically, is how I kind of feel, or at least like know some extent. But that does take more work, it takes more resources. So that's. Again, it's a whole mess. I don't want to put too much on them, but I feel like if you're going to recommend service, especially to this extent, it's on like articles and stuff as well for like other students. Moving on to the next thing, they somewhat confirmed the address layout, but then they said contact Wise to confirm if I was concerned about it. So I'm like, okay, do you not live in Japan, so you can't tell me what it is? Like, I don't know. That one was kind of weird for me as well. Like, I assume live in Japan. If you don't, okay, that's again not your fault. But if you do live in Japan, you should know how your address is structured. Unless obviously it could also mean like they use maybe different words in Japan compared to America. Like they may not use the word ward or province or district or whatever. They probably use different words or they didn't know like the exact words to translate. I've had friends who are like Hispanic who are like, I know this word in Spanish, but I don't know if there's an equivalent to English. I get that. So it could be something like that as well. Maybe Wise, like, I don't know. Again, it just adds to like they don't seem informed about the services that they're recommending. At the end of it, I might be just being too critical about it. I think addresses in general are very confusing. Like I've had to send things to different countries, like the Middle East, Canada, and like it's just so interesting to see how the rest of the world structures their address. Now this is where it gets really weird. I was really scared and I was really ready to duck out of this. During this time, roughly, messaging my advisor, shit gets more confusing and frustrating because I figured if they won't give me a postal code, I can simply Google it or look up the bank company, because again they gave me the bank details. It told me what the bank's number or the bank's name is and what branch they are. I Google it and lead into a bank with the correct name, but it was in Japanese, so I translate the rest and it said loan center. And I don't know anything about loan centers. I am a hard anti-debt anything kind of person, but that sounds suspicious. So definitely a yellow flag, most likely a red flag. I look at the invoice document that my advisor sent me. It was like in a separate tab that I didn't know was there, so I'm just like looking through everything to make sure like I'm covering my bases. I download the invoice document from the school. It breaks down the fees, how to pay, Flywire, and the international bank transfer options. It doesn't say anything about Wise. So I think Wise is only through GoGoNihon. The school provides like more bank info on their, specifically for the international bank transfer, and a different address was used compared to the Wise one. So I Googled both addresses in Google Maps. The address on the invoice is the closest to the school. It's like literally a block away. The one for Wise that was in my tuition task, is a few blocks away down the street. Red alarms are going off. I talked to like one of my managers at one of my other jobs, and their main job is like in insurance and more of the money businesses and stuff. And he said it's normal to have two addresses, but it is weird that it goes to a loan center. And I was like, okay, let's message them again because this is getting fucking strange. So I messaged them on September 21st. Their last message to me was February 20th. So I messaged them back on the Saturday. I won't get a response back for a while because it is the weekend. My response back was clarifying why. I shared stuff about Wise in the debit card so the team could be informed. Second, I insisted I need a postal code. Third, why are there two different addresses? And because we're getting closer to the deadline, so it is the 21st, right? And the deadline is 27th. I asked them what they would advise. Should I use Flywire instead? Or after asking that, I looked more into the legitimacy of Flywire, and in preparation, in case I couldn't use Wise, it would be really annoying because I've already made an account with Wise and took so much time to get fucking verified, and now I have to make another account with Flywire. It was getting a little fucking too much. But anyways, Flywire seems to be a popular money transferring service for international students to pay their tuition money. The school invoice for Toyo language school, in their invoice, they have it as an option to pay money, so they already have like association with Flywire or like affiliation with them. So it makes it seem more credible. It's a specific link, so I know I'm sending it to the right school either way. All this stress, as you can probably tell, was getting frustrating, very weird. Hence why I was like, I might just go to the April term or not go all, figure out something else on my own, because there's always different alternatives to things. Adding on more to that stress, GoGoNihon Advisor did not get back to me until the 25th at night. And that was because it was a holiday in Japan, which I think they might have messaged me about that, or something was going on. I might have gotten like an email, be like, hey, GoGoNihon's on travel or something like that. Please wait. Even Monday was a holiday. Monday was a holiday, but they still took a couple more days after the holiday to respond. So I guess just my advisor was busy, which is like not the best when you have a kid trying to, not kid, but like you have somebody who's trying to pay tuition. I didn't do anything in that time just to see what my advisor had to say. I did plan that if he didn't get back to me Tuesday night, I would use Flywire. Tuesday came, and I had a feeling that I should just wait one more day. And at that point, I was like, if I don't make the deadline, I'll go for next term. I'll just keep saving, go potentially for 6 months, hopefully, at that time. So I feel like it was kind of a sign, maybe. They messaged me Wednesday night, September 25th, so 2 days away from my deadline. Their response was, thank you for bringing it up to my attention. The differences in addresses and checking with the school, and they're checking with the school coordinator for which address is the correct one and what is the postal code. A little fishy. What would I have done if my money was in the wrong place? I wondered that. Like, I would be livid. I'd be so livid. This video would turn out so different, I feel like, if it didn't work. Good thing I literally fact checked all this shit and was like, So they said that since the deadline is soon, and if it's easier for me, not advising or whatever, it's easier for me to make the payment with Flywire, then please go ahead and do so. But if not, if I want to stay with Wise, I can, they'll let me know to get back to me. Somewhat of a response from them. Same night, I messaged them. I stayed up a little bit. I think just messaged them back to make sure, because I really was like confused and frustrated with what's going on. And I wish I had asked them to give me exact amounts of time as to when to expect their response back. I told them if they didn't get back to me by the morning, I would transfer with Flywire just to make the deadline. I wish they would message me back more than once a night. I asked further what will happen if I miss the deadline, and what exactly is the time deadline, and if it's in Japanese or Eastern Coastal Time. So Thursday morning, I get a little wishy-washy because of how confusing things are getting, and I made the firm decision to stay with Wise in terms of transferring money for a few reasons. As I already said, I have an account with Wise. I don't have to get verified with Flywire either. Not just used for Japan, but just used probably long term with other countries I go to. Wise also has the lowest rates, conversion rate, and fees compared to Flywire. They do let you like pick a school, add your money or how much you're planning to send, and you see the options of how much you'll end up paying in terms of rates and stuff and fees. It's like still pretty good. It's not as cheap as Wise, which is like a little petty because it's not that big of a difference. It's not like, oh, a couple hundred. It's like literally $30 difference. But $30 can mean a lot to me right now, so I'd rather just stick with the lowest amount. And second, I'm past the point if I use Flywire, it might take longer to send it. With Wise, it takes like a couple hours, like up to 9 hours it was telling me at the time. And Flywire can take like a couple of days. And based on how it made it seem, you have to like also contact your bank, which I was not in the mood for, or have to transfer through my bank instead of going through like Flywire. I was like, that sounds like a lot more research, and I'm on the cusp of the deadline, so I would just, Wise is the most simplest overall. I messaged my advisor in the morning, hey, I'm sticking with Wise, let me know what's going on. So that being said, September 26th, Thursday at night, their response was, the address in the invoice is the correct one. They gave me all the right details, and the postal code, need the exact deadline time. I stayed up that night to transfer the money to make it in time. If I needed more time, they'll let the school coordinator know, and my advisor apologized for the trouble and hoping transfer will work this time. Did the transfer at night, went smoothly. I had to do a couple double checks and stuff, but I got it done. So next day, basically night for them, September 27th, the school said they'll get back to me once the school confirms my fund. Following Monday, September 30th, they let me know the school confirms they have my money and they issued my certification of admission. It's in my records, mostly for my records and to bring it to the flight, but I don't think I have to, but I'll print it out just in case so I can show it to in the airport, be like, hey, this is why I'm here. Basically, an easier way to, I feel like, communicate my purpose of being there. The last thing they say to me is they will get back in contact with me 1 month before the start of the term to start sending info to help get ready for Japan and classes, so most likely beginning of December. At the time of the script, I was caught up with the timeline, but I do have updates because a week ago, they sent me a task to start looking at accommodations, which I was kind of surprised because during this process I asked them about it, which is actually my next section, but they said they'll be like either a month and a half or to a month, but get in contact with me again to start looking at accommodations because that's the best time for it. And when they sent me the task like maybe a week or two earlier than I expected, I was like, what's going on? And they gave me no message about it too, and it did clarify what to do with that task, but I'll put all that info in my probably part 2 or whatever update video on the rest of the GoGoNihon process, just to put that aside. And that I don't make this video any longer than it has to be. Moving on to the tips for accommodations and booking flights. I don't feel you need to know about that. And this stuff I didn't know where to place in this video and timeline. We're like on page 6 out of my 8 of the Google Doc. I'm sharing it at the end to round out this video before I give you my overall thoughts. You can probably guess my overall thoughts on GoGoNihon right now. Early in this process, I asked for a timeline as to when book accommodations, flights, and the exact dates of when this class starts. So if it's either the beginning, middle, or end of January, I already said Based on past events for Toyo, it was January 9th, but that's not a confirmed date. They're still finalizing their schedules. Makes sense because that was at the time was in September. But they'll let me know a month prior to classes starting. They'll get in contact with me to provide information about the school enrollment and preparation for my arrival. I asked them about timeline-wise because it is a little bit different to the 6-month timeline they gave me at the beginning of this, or what's shown on their FAQ or on their website. That's like the more drawn-out process, different months. Because of the student visa stuff. Booking accommodations and flights, those go hand in hand once I get the start date. Like, I've had people ask me that, why don't you just like go ahead and start, like, I am looking at accommodations now in this current period of time, and I could book my flight and just pick a flexible flight schedule, but because of what I'm thinking about doing, I feel like it'd be really hard to do that, because I'm planning to book through a couple of different things. In terms of accommodation, I think you can definitely start looking now. You can probably pick a house, but it's hard to finalize the date because depending on when you book it, they might charge you earlier before you're even there. So that's why I think it's safer to wait for my actual date when I start and actually book my flight to know exactly I can like stay accommodation wise, which sucks because the house I'm looking at right now might be sold or might already be picked up by other people. Some important things my advisor said about booking and important things to know based on the classes starting and right around the time the agencies give notice. They said that their agency partners start looking and arranging accommodations or like listing accommodations 1.5 months before arrival day preferably, and because of this the landlords in Japan often don't allow reservations more than a month in advance, so that's why I was confused when I got my task almost 2 months in advance. I was like, what's going on? But yeah, tenants are only required to inform the landlord of the intention to move within or before 30 days of moving, which is a question mark to that because based on the GoGoNihon's like accommodation tab and looking through the options, some of them vary. So some of them say the notice could be like a couple weeks before, it could be like a couple months before, or it has to be a month and a half before. So which makes sense. Different agencies, GoGoNihon's not going to be fully knowledgeable on that, and you know, every change of rule that these agencies want to do. And agencies cannot know at the moment what is going to be available until we get closer to the start date. If you do want to look at the options, or at least the different agencies and their numbers specifically, there is a tab on GoGoNihon, literally called accommodations, I believe. They show multiple options from share houses to dorms, apartments, hotels, and homestays as well. It'll show you the prices in terms of like how long you stay for a homestay, how much it will cost, utilities, rent, what things you'll like have in your room, like if it's a drawer, a refrigerator, AC kind of thing, desk, bedding if not, key money, deposit money, guarantor fee or security fee. It's a lot of info on there. The only thing that makes kind of difficult is to know the location because each agency has a bunch of houses under its name, and it doesn't give you like a map or a list of the places in the area or give you an option to like easily narrow down those areas. You have to go to the company's exact website to actually see where these houses are located and how far they are from your school. That being said, depending on the length of stay and the location, your options may vary. My card is getting full. Fuck me. So in terms of what I think I'll be doing at the time, when I was thinking, before all this, I want to do homestay just so I have a lot of more access and more of a natural home vibe, staying with a family. I don't want to say like a foster family, but it gives like that kind of vibe. I feel like it's easier to like learn more about the culture. I'd be able to taste more like the Japanese food if I really like have dinner or meals with them. I don't have to like cook all the time and end up cooking American food or Laotian food or whatever I end up doing. But I believe it is the most expensive option, and it's basically like paying for a hotel each night. Not the best. I think I was thinking about Okinawa, but then I think Okinawa only offers homestay as accommodation, which is like Okinawa tuition is already expensive, but staying with Okinawa family, that's a little too much. For someone who's self-sponsoring. Homestay ended up being out of my plans, and most likely gonna go with a share house. So I feel like that could be an easy thing to like guess, or maybe a very common thing for other people. But I didn't really know much about it. It's basically like you have your own room, or you might share a room with somebody, but the kitchen, the bathrooms, and like the lounge area is like for everybody in the house. It's like having a big apartment building, but like your kitchen is in a separate area. All you have is just a small room. And maybe most likely with somebody else. With accommodations, you can apply through GoGoNihon, and they'll help you get like a student discount. Tokyo has specifically a lot of agencies with varying prices. If I'm going for most affordable, which I am, I think it will be between Borderless, which I've heard the name before in other people's videos, other YouTubers' videos, Oak House, or X Ross, which is the cheapest option based on numbers. It's like debatable because the way they do their fees, their rent, utilities, whatever, it can add up different ways, and some of them either have like no key money or no security fee, or you have the key money but no security fee, or you have the security fee but no key money. So it just depends on which way you want your money to go towards, and based on that, I think X Ross was the cheapest, and then Oak House, I think. I think Oak House and Borderless kind of balance each other in different ways. Most likely, I'm gonna go with Oak House. Actually, my notes here says Oak House might be the most expensive of the three with the highest rent. It's like the middle tier utilities compared to the other three. There's the registration fee, but there's no key money. The main reason why I like Oak House is their furnishing options. They just do really good furnishing, as you can tell. So far from this video, I'm very picky about the interior of things. I like the videos I've seen of them so far, and they have extra facilities like a gym, which I would not be using, but they have like a library or a very nice lounge. It gives like very nice cafe vibes. The key information my GoGoNihon advisor gave me was that the flight will be based on the class's start and end time, and I get to choose when I do that. They definitely recommend you book it to where it covers the start and end of the class. I highly recommend landing no earlier than 2 to 4 days before the start of class, since I will be on a tourist visa. Once I land, that visa will go into effect the moment I'm in Japan. So if I get there too early, I might not have enough time to finish my classes. They also recommend a landing time on a weekday between 8 in the morning to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. The housing agent may be closed around that time, especially on the weekends or like holiday kind of thing. And I won't, so that being said, I won't be able to move into my accommodations right away. I will have to go to a hotel or wherever. And I ended up like losing precious money just because I just didn't pick my time wisely. So since it's my first time flying by myself, I have again been to Europe, but that was like for school trips, and I didn't have to book any of that myself. That was already planned for me through like the agency, and my first time luckily handling stops. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna do luggage. I'm hoping to do just a carry-on because I don't want to do a check-in bag, just so I don't have to wait for the bag and look for it and hopefully not get lost in transit. Very interesting. I'm gonna do a video on that. I do have a carry-on like hard suitcase, but I already tested it and it didn't fit what I was hoping. You could argue that I was overpacking. It's also like hard to fit 3 months of stuff into a carry-on, but I'm gonna figure out hopefully with this new bag I'm getting. I will do a video about that. Stay tuned because I do want to make content about that. I'm more excited to make that video than to make this video, to be honest. Anyways, first time handling flights by myself, first time most likely handling stops. I saw a reel about Zip Air. It's a very affordable Japanese airline. They do use the Boeing planes that are said to fall apart, $200 to $500, but it's only provided in specific cities like LA, Houston, Hawaii, San Francisco kind of. Tickets recently now, and for a flight with one company maybe, it's gonna be like $1,400. I think it's just like that ticket from my coast to Japan kind of thing. I thought like maybe one stop in there. If I do Zip Air, first I have to go from East Coast to West Coast, so most likely I'll take a domestic flight to San Francisco, about $200 to $300, and then I'll take a flight with Zip Air from San Francisco to Japan, and that's roughly like minimum maybe right now because of the holidays, it's $400 up to $800. Altogether, I might spend around $800. Definitely better compared to like $1,400. Finally, the big part of this video, my overall thoughts on GoGoNihon's process so far. Based on other customer reviews and people's videos who have gone through this process, they seem to have had an advisor who gave them a lot of options and a very personalized experience. I feel like I did not get that. I didn't really get to conversate with my advisor about what options they have because it didn't seem like they knew any of them. They didn't want to maybe show it or explain it. They didn't really want to talk about it with me. It felt like I was talking to a robot. They didn't seem too excited to show off or share their services. It didn't feel like a salesperson, which I feel like if you were trying to help people, like go to Japan, maybe you're passionate about it, I feel like people were very, very excited, like, oh my god, here are the great things about this and that. Or it didn't feel like that. It just felt, I feel like even AI now can be like, it can make things sound exciting, right? But it didn't feel like that. On the flip side of it, they were still extremely professional and they had very little grammar errors in our conversations, which I feel is a sign of good service, which people could argue that's supposed to be given, but I feel like you don't see that in America too much, based on the customer service I've gotten from other companies, right? Still overall professional, they are definitely informed about the logistics of preparing for Japan and the application process. My advisor, at least, that's their best point. Another factor that may have affected my experience was the fact I'm going for 3 months. I don't want to say like they're treating me less than as a customer because I'm going for 3 months because I'm still using their services. I didn't hate my experience despite the stressful moments. It seems like I've been pretty heated throughout this video, but I think overall it was pretty okay. It's straightforward for the most part. If I didn't have like any hiccups with the tuition, it would definitely have been a very straightforward, very easy process. I learned a lot of important information I wouldn't have learned otherwise if I've gone doing this by myself, like contacting this language school directly, and I wouldn't have gotten this much information either from my advisor or as much research I have online from GoGoNihon's website. Would I apply through GoGoNihon again, or would I recommend it to other people? Straightforward answer, yes, for the easy, the guided, informed process, or even if just using GoGoNihon as a research platform for schools and accommodation. Now it is nice to go use GoGoNihon for like the student discounts at least. I don't know about tuition wise, but housing wise with OCALs they do give you a tuition discount for specific locations since you're affiliated with GoGoNihon. Also, I heard it's very hard for foreigners. It's notoriously hard in Japan especially, and I believe South Korea too, where foreigners have a hard time figuring out accommodations because they don't want to give them out to foreigners because of like the uncertainty of, oh, will they run out on us, will they pay us our money? I haven't heard that info in a while. It could definitely have changed now. This is information I saw like so long ago on YouTube. That means it could actually, now I'm thinking about it, could have changed in like the decades of videos I've seen since then. To be a more nuanced answer, if I were to go to Japan again to study at a language school, which I would most likely do long term if I do want to stay in Japan and I like it based on this experience, depending where I'm at in life, to be clear, it's highly likely I'll go back to Japan to study Japanese, or to even actually study abroad like at a university. I imagine it's unlikely that my Japanese will advance in 3 months, obviously, so I would have to apply to a school again. I might not be able to apply with just 3 months of Japanese under my belt, so having GoGoNihon application classes would be nice for that still. Now, if I was traveling abroad through college, I imagine their process will be different. They'll have their own thing for their students to get you there. And I don't know much about grants and scholarships, but I would imagine that going through college would be more easier in terms of that. Like you can get like obviously scholarships. My warehouse jobs offers like tuition reimbursements or vouchers. Colleges though are like pretty expensive, I believe, on study abroad programs. Even with all the grants I don't know if I would get even grants to begin with. But even scholarship wise, might not be able to cover all of that. In the end, the GoGoNihon service or services similar to them are the cheapest way, I believe, to get to a language school. Even though based on numbers and stuff I've already talked about, there are more expensive options, but this is a good way compared to like a college program, I'm sure. And they help with multiple things too, depending on your length of stay. As I've mentioned super early on, they do help you with job preparations and job related interviews, prepping for interviews, business-related classes to help get like the formal Japanese down. If you're on that route, if you're staying long terms, there's electives like the tech schools for coding, there's the art schools to cooking. They also have online schools, which I'm probably consider once I come back from Japan and I'm not going to return anytime soon. I might consider those as well. And over how money looks, it looks pretty much cheap. I think the most expensive course is over $1,000 though, which is still pretty good considering like Toyo Language School is roughly $1,500 is how much I spent. I think like $1,400 exactly, give or take because of the fees and stuff with Wise. But yeah, that is the end of this video. I hope that made sense at the end because my brain is wired. I feel like my thoughts, even while typing that up at the time, was confusing. Looking back at it now, made me more confused. Basically, yes, I would recommend GoGoNihon. It's easy, simple service. It's free to, I believe it's free to go through, and you just get a lot of benefits throughout the process of it. I hope this video was entertaining. I don't think so because I just talked straight on and mindlessly, I feel like, for a couple hours. I'm going to go and cook lunch and figure out how to edit this video and have to go to work later, so we'll see how things go. But yeah, thank you so much for watching me. Sorry for the chaos. Let me stop talking before I have to edit more shit. Bye bye, thank you.